So everything on the wall at the end of the game is pretty much in order of the game's story. It's actually very interesting. However, the last panel is what I would like to focus on. The last panel obviously represents the next game. Part of it is destroyed. However, there is one part that literally nobody is talking about. No, I'm not talking about the one that's quote-unquote Kratos' destruction and how he passes. Not even Atreus walking alongside three wolves. In fact, there is another one on this wall, which seems to be Mimir inside of a tree again, similar to how we saw in the beginning of the game. Now, I went into a lot of detail, but first, let me go ahead and show you live, because it's pretty weird me talking about it, so I want to break it down for you guys. Then I want to get into the translations and what I think is going to happen in the next game. So, as you can clearly see, this wall is in order. You have Faye saying goodbye to her son, and then coming down here, you see Faye arguing with the giants, telling them their plan, and then the game begins. You have them meeting Freya, meeting the turtle. Down here, after that, they meet the serpent, all in timeline order, and then you have this, what we are talking about, Mimir in a tree. What's weird about this, his body is not here. So this isn't a mural painting of the beginning of the game where we first meet Mimir. Instead, it's just a head here, which means that he must have gotten recaptured in the next game, in the very beginning actually. So maybe when Thor comes in, Thor fights us, and then he ends up taking Mimir's head back to Odin. Maybe that's why he's here to even begin with, is to retrieve Mimir. You have the ravens on top of this tree here, most likely because Odin is keeping more of a watchful eye on Mimir. He's watching Mimir through the ravens. If anything happens, if he walks up, the ravens will alert Odin. Now, why doesn't Odin just defeat Mimir, just take him out on the spot? Remember in the beginning where we first meet Mimir, even before that, we hear Modi, Magni, and Balder talking to the smartest man. And Mimir said that you guys are not going to do anything because, one, Odin won't let you kill me. So which means that Odin still needs Mimir for something. We know that Odin tortured Mimir daily. They hurt him a lot every single day, and this caused Mimir a lot of distress, but he would choose to have his head cut off by Kratos rather than stay there in that tree. What's interesting about that is that Odin must have been hurting Mimir so he can keep Mimir bound, and because he's pretty much hurting him, anything that Odin wants to know, Mimir would tell him for the pain to stop.
But if she fails, he will be dead.
He tortures me, you know. Every day, brother. Odin himself sees to it personally, and believe me, there is no end to his creativity. Every single day. This isn't living.
Very well.
Oh, I can't watch this.
So Mimir was probably still giving Odin advice, even though Odin was doing this to him. So now that he's free, he needs Mimir back, so Odin can continue to get his advice, his perspective on everything that he needs his perspective on. I think that is really interesting, that in the next game, most likely Odin somehow takes Mimir once again. It's pretty odd stuff. Now, what the hell does he still need Mimir even for? Mimir obviously knows a lot. He knows all of the prophecies. Odin is centered around gaining knowledge. You know, there are so many stories of him hurting and destroying people, giants, gods, it doesn't matter, all for the pursuit of knowledge. He betrayed the giants for knowledge. When he gained that knowledge of how he's defeated in Ragnarok, he tells Thor, take out all of the giants in Midgard. You know, just like Faye, he's manipulating the future. So in order for him to once again manipulate the future even more, he needs Mimir to tell him any questions that he has. Mimir himself is a wealth of knowledge. this is most likely why he doesn't want Mimir to be taken away from him. It's why he needs him alive. Why Odin won't let Balder, Modi, or Magni finish him off. Simply because Odin still needs the smartest man alive. Now let's get into some translations. So it's very odd when I'm doing these translations, I kind of just go on Reddit and I see everybody's translations, what other people are saying. But it's funny, nobody has actually done on this, not even the real in-depth articles on the wall. Nobody really talks about this specific painting. You know, when it comes to the last panel, everybody is talking about Atreus and who he's holding at the end of the game. So I actually had to do this myself, and at first I was a little bit worried, but I actually did get some solid translations that actually mean something. So let's get into it. First off, let's talk about the ravens. There is one set of runes underneath the raven on the far right and one above the tree. Now those actually translate to these. Upon googling these two translations, there are two specific ravens that Odin entrusts. One is Hugin, the other one is Munin. These two are very close to Odin. Odin has a whole plethora of ravens, but these two are the closest, which really does mean if anybody comes up to this tree, they will instantly alert Odin, something that he didn't foresee in the very beginning of God of War 2018, because when we got to the tree originally, there was no ravens watching us. Another thing that I got from this is obviously Mimir's name. These are the runes that are right by his face. His name is there, and that's pretty obvious. And the other two wording is kind of hit or miss. The first set I actually didn't get. However, the longer one underneath I did, and that just translates to wisdom tree. Now, as you can see, there are some letters that are in parentheses, and that's because the rune that looks like an E, I really couldn't find the right translation for, so I substituted that for anything that would make sense. There are two of them, so I put in two subs, and it came out to wisdom tree. That's the most obvious thing it comes out to. Next, I want to talk about that word that is right next to Mimir's name. I couldn't get this one. I got Aldin, which I thought was Aladdin at first, but it turns out it's not. But it doesn't really mean anything. However, I think it's just another description of who Mimir is. So I think that is all pretty damn interesting. So in summary, what did we learn from this video? We learned that 1, Mimir early in the next game is going to be taken captive and put in a tree once again. Now, if we learn anything from the mural, it's that it's in timeline order, which means that, again, early in the next game, he gets captive. Now, how does he get captive? Well, we know that Thor is supposed to show up at the house. Maybe somehow in the struggle, Kratos versus Thor, Kratos loses Mimir's head, Thor takes it away and brings it back to Asgard. Maybe that is what the next journey is going to be about. Finding Mimir in Asgard, rescuing our friend. And this explains why there are ravens on top of Mimir's tree. Maybe the Allfather knows that Kratos and Atreus is going to try to capture Mimir, and he is luring Atreus and Kratos to Asgard so Odin can probably deal with them on his own turf. And just saying that gets me so hyped for the next game. In the next video, I'll probably talk about this more, but what we are going to talk about in the next video is who Atreus is holding. I know I promised I wouldn't. This is the last time, but I now believe that person that Atreus is holding, that body, is Mimir. We're going to death and that in the next video. I'm going to be out of here. Thank you guys for listening. Deuces.